Good morning, everybody. I'm so grateful to be here looking at all these screens and thinking of your testimony and your call. So here we go. I'm a physician, a pediatrician, an osteopathically trained physician, and I have a master's in public health. I received my diploma in nursing back in 1970. I worked stateside in the U.S. Army Corps for 3 years during the Vietnam era. I had operating room training. I finished out in the recovery room in intensive care. And definitely my call is to be bedside, phone side nowadays, Zoom side, chair side. And for 25 years, I served as a physician with the Indian Health Service. In my last 2 years, I served in the Health Resources Services Administration. You think Ryan White, HIV/AIDS, think community health centers. And this is where in 2010, we set up the Maternal Infant Child Health Program, which was the first new funding in 25 years for maternal child health that opened the doors for families to receive home visits and make a difference in early childhood. It's been underway for 10 years now. We hear trillions and billions of dollars. This funding was for 5 years and has been reauthorized for $1.5 billion back in 2010 for 5 years. So as a bureaucrat, we extend beyond administrations and beyond eras. And during that time, we made a difference. I was the branch chief for the eastern part of the United States, from Maine to Mississippi down to Puerto Rico. And that early intervention makes all the difference in those young family, high-risk households. I love medicine. I love teaching. I love public health. I love the collective understanding that happens in one part of the world and touches us all, as the pandemic has. I love the patient encounter, whether it's on a camp stool in the Himalayas or in the chart next door. These are sacred moments. I adhere to the concepts of family medicine. Staffing in the United States was always tenuous. I was the attending for a while in the nursing home at Laguna Rainbow in the Laguna Pueblo. This is the same Pueblo that Deb Haaland is from, who is now the nominated Secretary of the Interior, Department of Interior. I grew up with great affinity for my elders, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents on both sides. And while not the norm in the United States in general, here I was, a pediatrician, as an attending in a nursing home. And you can see where there might be utility and similarities. It was a wonderful team of people who took care of their elders, were related to their elders because they were from the same Pueblo. We laid the groundwork for hospice and palliative care in that area. And though a pediatrician, I took care of pregnant women, had covered the emergency room, inpatient, and school-based health care. My oldest patient was John Pino. He died at 104, but at 101 in 2002, he carried the torch for the Olympics that year. With Hank and our 2 young children, I went as a second lieutenant to Acoma, Canyoncito, Laguna Public Health Service, Indian Health Service Hospital. I was trained and everything was new. I knew I could love. It carried me through everything. The tribes, the staff, the colleagues and administrators, hospital board, meetings, memos, clinical duties, carrying out the mission, I reminded myself that I was a guest and a visitor. We lived on the hospital compound situated off of Interstate 40, where the highway trauma would come to us. We received trauma in all sorts of weather during the 6,500 feet elevation. Patients would ask, "How long are you staying?" We want to connect. We want to stay together and be related, to be trusted. and some of that has to be earned. I ask for forgiveness for the arrogance, the mistakes, the slights, the privileged assumptions and failures that I may have happened or been felt by others on my watch. I open my heart right now, asking to be shown how I am complicit in white supremacy and white privilege, and help me to do the discernment and take right action. What I share is a small piece of my service as an adult. It is to people-filled, intense, and happy time, stressful and crushingly fatiguing, and I wouldn't pass it up. The pandemic of HIV/AIDS in the 80s and 90s was a call to see Everett Koop, my ultimate boss in the public health service at the time. I remember him saying, get uniformed and get mobile. Well, for us in the Indian Health Service, staying mobile maybe was counter to staying connected and related to our Indian communities. But it became our call. It reached into my internship, residency, federal service in many communities. The horrendous losses were further scarred by politics and prejudice and wrenching delay. Researchers at NIH were able to address maternal-infant vertical transmission with drug protocols that now have made it preventable in infancy and now a chronic disease. But it's still ravaging the world and people of color, especially Black women. The SARS-CoV-2 pandemic activates us now and are thinking in much the same way. There's room for action, whether you write a check, a letter to a voter, call your congressperson, or wear a mask. For me, it was joining the Pierce County Medical Reserve Corps and becoming a contact tracer. So phone side with strangers, making a difference, dipping once again in connecting, bringing public health rigor to what could be very invisible, but taking for granted, public health taken for granted on a good day. Our Eastern religions place the mind and the heart where compassion lives. And all religions take up compassion. May it be so each and every day.